So settling into a posture that for you is conducive to feeling at ease. If we're sitting, there's going to be a little bit of musculature working, like holding our head up maybe, or if we're sitting cross-legged on the floor, our back muscles are working. If you're lying down, you can relax more. You can relax the big muscles of your body in lying down, or your back muscles can relax. And there's always something working, even in deep sleep. Our heart muscle continues to work, our breathing muscles continue to work. So there's always something going on. And the practice of relaxation is about finding the least effortful way to do something, the easiest way to be in that moment. So we can even practice relaxation during walking or during lifting something heavy by finding the easiest way to do it. And that's something we've been working with a lot this year, finding ease in challenge. And then lately that's been more about being in a pandemic crisis situation, which for some of us has been easier than others, depending on your circumstances. So we can start off by noticing how we are this morning. So when we become still and we find hopefully some physical ease in our body, some relaxation in our shoulders, our hands, maybe our back muscles, leg muscles. And we can notice if the rest of us is also at ease on the more subtle emotional, psychological level, what's there for us. What is going on inside your skin and muscles, in your belly, your heart, your throat? They're often the places where we feel emotion. And often different things go side by side, so there might be joy and anxiety at the same time. Sometimes I feel calm and settled in my belly, and there's a fluttering in my chest. And I often use the analogy of bodies of water. So on a deeper level, I might be quite calm and content. And on the surface, there might be some waves, a bit of rippling, a bit of disturbance. A bit like earlier on having the missed call from my mum on my mind. There was a slight disturbance on the surface. So within me, I was pretty calm, and then there was this slight wave in my head. Oh, what's that? Is she okay? And we can see if we can relax our belly, particularly on the in-breath, softening, relaxing the abdominal muscles to help ease the passageway of the breath into the lower parts of the lungs. And on the exhale, the lungs empty out, and again in a very easy way the belly moves back towards the spine. Noticing if that's happening for you, or if you feel more movement in your chest. So we've been exploring this a bit, this idea of horizontal breathing, which is more activity or movement activity in the lower ribs and the belly, in the sense of spreading out around the waist and the lower ribs on the in-breath, and a narrowing in that area on the out-breath. And then sometimes, or some of us, will have a more vertical breathing pattern, where there's more of an up and down in the upper chest, maybe the shoulders. And there's usually a bit of both. As a rule of thumb, when we're very relaxed, and we can see that in babies and sleeping babies, the natural breath would be more that horizontal one in the lower ribs and belly area. And if we're making a lot of effort physically, or by trying to figure things out mentally, or we're a little bit anxious, then we tend to have more of that vertical pattern. Noticing where you are with that today, where you can feel your breath. And once we build awareness, we have more choice. If we don't know how we breathe, we know we're breathing because we're alive, but if we don't know our breathing patterns and habits, we're not likely to change them consciously. And so starting with awareness, and also kindness and curiosity. So in a way, there's no wrong way to breathe. Our lungs are designed to breathe in lots of different ways, depending on what the human body is doing. And there's ways of cultivating breath in certain ways to help us in times of anxiety or in times of low energy, to help ourselves feel better. And then we'll keep coming back to awareness of the breath, and sometimes it's helpful to let it go, especially if you're new to breath awareness practice or breathing meditation, because sometimes being very concentrated on it, we start breathing a bit differently. It becomes a bit unnatural, or it feels unnatural. It can feel as if we suddenly don't know how to breathe anymore. Allowing our awareness of that to come and go. And if you're an experienced yoga practitioner, you might very naturally stay with your breath as you move, and that's fine too. And then bringing attention again to your body and your connection with the ground as it is right now. Maybe that's through the furniture you're sitting or lying on. And then inviting you to do a big stretch. So if you're lying down, you might really stretch your whole body out. If you've got room, if you're sitting like me, I'm sitting right now, you can perhaps just stretch your arms up or wriggle your toes, straighten your legs. And that might naturally engage a deep breath, and then as you exhale, letting the stretch go. And then the first movement sequence we'll do lying on the floor. So I'm going to do that with you. So if you need to look at the screen to see what I'm doing, you can. And most of you will know this kind of stuff because we do it regularly in class. So you can probably mostly follow just the verbal and relax your eyes away from the screen. So if you're not lying down already, come to a comfortable lying down place, if possible with space around you to move your arms up and out to the side. And then again, if comfortable, starting with your knees bent, and if that's not comfortable, straighten your legs in the first instance, and we'll alternate a bit between straight legs and bent knees, which has a different effect on your lower back. So take a moment to settle. And we'll start in that lying down position with our arms by our side and the palms turned down to the floor. Noticing your shoulder blades, what kind of contact they make with the ground. And you might do a little bit of a wriggle of your shoulders to help your shoulder blades to settle between your rib cage and the floor. And your shoulders might be up a little bit. You might notice they're curving forwards a bit. And then you can turn your palms up and down, so you're rolling your arms inwards and outwards towards your body and away from your body, with your arms quite close to your side. And notice what that does to your shoulder blades. You might notice something shifts in your back, in your upper back. And then resting your hands with the palms up for a moment. And again, you might have a little bit of a shuffle of your shoulders. It's helping the shoulders to become more and more settled on the floor in different ways. And then taking your attention to your feet, the soles of your feet on the ground. If you've had your legs straight, you can bend them now. And move your knees from side to side a little bit and wiggle your toes a bit. And notice how your lower body makes contact with the ground, so through the soles of your feet and the back of your pelvis. We're basically encouraging the four corners of our back, the two shoulder blades and the two hips, to consciously settle on the ground. And then bringing your feet and your knees to stillness, aligned with your hips, with your bent knees. And then pressing down through your feet, straight down, which probably will contract your buttock muscles and slightly lift your pelvis. And doing that a couple of times, pressing down and then releasing, contracting the buttock muscles and releasing, creating a mini bridge pose. I often call this a hammock bridge, kind of hanging bridge, very low slung, close to the ground bridge. And this contract and release of the buttock muscles can help to relax our lower back muscles and all the deep buttock muscles which can hold tension. And then when you next bring your hips back down, you can walk your feet and your knees together with bent knees still, and then letting your knees release out to the side, lying down cobbler pose, your left knee to the left, your right knee to the right, and then bringing them back together, doing that a few times to start to release and relax the inner thigh muscles. When we bring the knees towards the floor, and when we bring the knees back together, those inner thigh muscles are working, are contracting, are lifting the weight of the legs. So again, a contract and release which ultimately helps the muscles to be able to let go more deeply. When we come to relaxing them again. And then the next time you bring your knees together, then taking your feet wider than hip width and allow your knees to lean against each other. You might lift your hips up again a little bit or roll your tailbone up in a mini bridge to settle your lower back, and then let your knees lean against each other. And then bringing your attention to your head and neck, and a couple of times lift your head off the floor, looking down towards your knees, chin to chest, and bringing your head back down. Just a couple of times, again, to engage the neck muscles and then relax them, fully giving the weight of your head to the ground, and then rolling your head from side to side a few times. And you might like to come back to your breathing pattern now, so as you roll your head to the side, you can do that on an exhalation. When you come back to the center, breathing in, and then to the other side, breathing out, to the center, breathing in. And if you have this sense that there's some things on your mind, not feeling super duper, could be something to do with thoughts or worries. You can imagine that the ground, the floor, can help you to support that, to support anything that feels weighty on your mind, to be able to give that to the ground for the next hour. And as you breathe out, to also have this intention of letting that go for now. You can revisit it later. Now we can let it go and give it to the floor. And then coming back to the center with the head. Then we can roll our arms in again, so the palms face down to the ground again. Notice a shift in the shoulders perhaps. And then on an in-breath, taking our arms up towards the ceiling, so the fingertips are pointing up towards the ceiling. Then on the next out breath, taking your arms down towards the floor behind you. Breathing in, starting the journey back, taking the hands and arms to the upright position, and then exhaling back down to the floor. So we've got one in-breath and out-breath for the movement towards the floor behind you. You might touch the floor, you might not. And one in-breath and out-breath for the way back. And it's helpful here to bring attention to how your arms are connecting into your shoulders and how your shoulder blades are connecting into the ground. So when we bring our arms to that vertical position, we can let the weight of the arms still really rest through the shoulder blades into the ground. So there's a sense of rooting through the shoulders into the ground. We can let our arms go back and still feeling rooted through the back of the shoulders. And moving. So this is also one of those movements where you might find it more helpful or interesting to let go of awareness of the breath and really spend more awareness to how your arms and shoulders feel. And how far back it's comfortable to go. Maybe you go to just beyond that vertical position, or maybe you're going all the way to the floor with your hands. What's possible and what's comfortable. And then if it's comfortable, you can rest your arms behind you on the floor. An alternative is to rest your head in your hands, so your palms behind the back of your head. Or option 3, your arms out to the side at shoulder level. So encouraging a different resting shoulder position again. You can see what works for you. And then letting your knees come apart if they're still resting against each other. And stretching first one leg out on the floor and noticing how that feels. If you've got a little bit of a lack of space like I have, you could take your foot out to the side a bit more, maybe to the edge of your mat or just outside the edge of your mat. If that feels comfortable, try straightening the other leg as well. So kind of spreading out on the floor, taking up a bit more space. If that's not so comfortable, you can bend one knee and see if that works better to just have one leg long and one knee bent. And feel the 4 corners of your back again. And then if you're just doing one long leg and one bent leg, then changing over. If your eyes are open, you can let your gaze be soft and up towards the ceiling. If your eyes are closed, letting your eyes rest that way. So soft gaze or closed eyes, both very restful, especially if you're spending a lot of time online. And then we'll bend both knees, take our arms down again, and hug our knees in towards our chest. And take a little rock from side to side. And you can let your head roll in the opposite direction of where your knees are going. So you can feel your pelvis rolling to one side and your head to the other. And then if you've got room to do so, rolling onto your left side and taking a few breaths curled up on your left side in a fetal position. Noticing your breath in your nostrils. Noticing which nostril feels a bit more open. If they're both a bit blocked, breathe through your mouth, obviously, but if you can breathe through your nose, notice if one nostril feels more open than the other. And if we lie on our left side for a while, we might notice the right nostril starts to open a bit more. And right nostril breathing is associated with a kind of energizing breath called the sun breath. And the left nostril breathing is more calming. It's called the moon breath. In the morning, it would be helpful to stimulate right nostril breathing. Usually one nostril is more dominant than the other. And if we're feeling a bit sluggish, spending a little bit of time lying on our left side is one way to stimulate breathing on the right side. So you might already notice a bit of a change in how you're breathing through your nostrils, and if not, don't worry. There can be lots of reasons for it to stay more left-sided, or obviously you might have a cold or hay fever and be breathing more through your mouth. And then when you're ready, coming up to sitting. Finding a way to comfortably sit for a bit more of an energetic breathing and movement practice. And you could do this seated on a chair or sitting cross-legged on the floor, or like I am with my legs out in front. And if it's a bit challenging to sit on the floor like this, you can pop something under the back of each knee, like a cushion or rolled up blanket, so you're bending your knees a little bit and at the same time relaxing your knees. So we did this breathing last week called the rock and roll breath, and it's also stimulating for the core, and again can help with re-establishing the capacity for this horizontal breathing. Just drinking some water because I'm a bit dry and coughing a bit. So I started doing this when I was possibly having COVID symptoms, and finding it very helpful. So the way we do it is we actually breathe through our mouth with this one, which is a bit unusual in yoga. And we breathe in on a slight forward bend and really let our belly relax. So the forward bend helps us with that kind of sense of the belly just being able to hang loose and relax. And if it's a bit tricky to forward bend, you could bend your knees, sit on a chair, whatever you need. Breathing in forwards, and then breathing out, we go backwards. And our tummy muscles need to kick in then to stop us falling backwards. So if you're on a chair, sit sort of at the front edge. So you need to have that room to go back. So exhaling back, inhaling forwards. Consciously relax your belly on the in-breath forwards. Exhaling back, contracting the abdominal muscles. Strengthening core as well as stimulating the exhale. Stimulating the inhale on the forward bends, relaxing the belly. Stimulating the exhale on the backward movement, contracting the belly. Breathing out through our mouth. If it feels like hard work, you can make the forward bend and backward movement smaller. You could stop any time, of course, as well. And when you next go forwards, or you can stay in upright, pausing for a moment, placing one hand or both hands on the belly, allowing your breath to find its own normal rhythm. Giving your belly a little bit of a rub. So sometimes we feel a bit self-conscious about our belly. Some friends have mentioned they're getting a bit of a lockdown belly, and there's still a lot of baking going on, I think, because every time I go to the supermarket there's hardly any eggs still, so or no eggs. And so sometimes that self-consciousness about our bellies can contribute to this horizontal breathing becoming a bit unfamiliar to us, because we're like holding our stomachs in for aesthetic reasons, or maybe we're wearing jeans that are just actually a little bit too tight, or whatever clothes that are just a little bit too tight, or those slimming knickers, or slimming leggings that you can get. So really just appreciating our belly and learning to love it, even if it's getting a bit round. It's very helpful too for stimulating that belly breathing. Lovely, and then we can explore that in the cat pose and the downward dog pose as well. So you might want to take your socks off for that. And you might want something to protect your knees, especially if you're on a bit of a hard floor. So a cushion or a rolled up blanket can be very nice. And just going to take a layer off, nice and warm. So we can start in the cat pose on all fours, and it's actually quite useful, some of this video yoga, because we can, if you can see yourself on your screen, or you can change to gallery view and find yourself, you can see, oh, so normally I might think, oh, I'm in a sort of neutral cat here, but I've actually got a slight backward curve in my lower back and a slightly rounding in my upper back. So once I'm aware, I can look and kind of correct that and then notice how that feels. And it's never going to be perfectly straight because we're not designed like that. But being aware of our position. And then we can go into the forward bend where the belly is really contracting towards the spine. We can have a bit of a wriggle there as well, moving our shoulders and our hips, stretching our back. And then we can come back to neutral, what we think is neutral. And then we can go into the backward bend. We let our tailbone come up a bit, the head come up, looking forwards. Relaxing our belly a bit more. And then coming back to neutral. And noticing our breathing. So on the forward bend, there's a lot more contraction in the belly. And maybe we feel the breath more in the back of the ribs. Where do we feel the breath in the neutral cat? Might be a bit more sideways. In the backward cat. And then we'll take our knees wide, a little bit wider, and take our buttocks towards our heels. Take a couple of breaths in child pose. So you could rest your head in your hands or your forehead on your forearms. And this is a good one for belly breathing. Really, again, letting your belly hang loose. Notice where you can feel the breath going. And then coming back to all fours. We can tuck our toes under, maybe take our hips forwards and back a few times just to notice how our toes are this morning. And if they bend there with enough ease, stretching them a little bit, and you might only go back a little way, or you might be able to go back to almost buttocks to heels. There's no right or wrong there, our toes are all a bit different, so notice how it is. And then we can explore downward dog by lifting our knees and kind of rolling onto the balls of the feet, coming back down. Doing that a few times, and if you do have problems with your toes, you could come up to standing and kind of lower down like this, and that's friendlier for the toes. And once in downward dog, you can bend and straighten your knees, doing some walking dog, and notice how the backs of your legs are today, your calf muscles, your hamstrings at the back of your thighs. Gently easing them, and if you need to release your hands, you could come to puppy dog pose, a kind of half child, and move your hands like this to lifting the heels of the hands to release the wrists. Or you can come to kneeling or upright kneeling and release your hands anytime. So having a bit of a play with downward dog. Another alternative, if your wrists or your hands get painful with this, is to do the lying down dog, which is something like this. Arms up or behind you, or even out to the side if there's a shoulder restriction, and the legs up. Also you could do this one. So it's very similar body shape, flexion at the hips, stretching the legs, spine lengthening, and shoulders opening. Sometimes call that the lazy dog or the resting dog. So again, some options there. Like if you're not feeling super well or energetic, that lazy lying down dog could be rather nice. And then in any of those downward dog variations, if you're okay to stay there for a few breaths, you could bend your knees quite a lot. That will help with tightness at the backs of the legs. And you can focus on your breathing, and again on the in-breath, letting your belly hang loose. And on the out-breath, breathing out fully and noticing what happens in your body. What are we doing with our tummy muscles in this breath, in this posture? And then to come out of downward dog, you could bring your knees down and step a foot forwards, come up from that sort of lunge. Or you could walk your hands and your feet towards each other and slowly come up, because your head's been below your heart for a while. Slowly come up to standing. We've done quite a lot of weight bearing for the arms, so let's do a wrist release. We can interlace our fingers and create this wave-like movement which will stretch the top of our hands and wrists. And this one's also really nice if you get repetitive strain from screen work or gardening, whatever you might be doing a lot more of this time in our lives. It's from a yoga therapy book, and we can then all sort of change it up a bit by changing the way we interlace. So I've currently got my left thumb on top. I can swap to the other thumb, which is quite a different effect. And also there might be an awareness that you're leading this movement with one hand, probably your dominant hand, but not necessarily. And that you could possibly lead it with your other hand. So I'm leading with my dominant hand, and if I change, it does feel very different and it feels less smooth. We can try that as well, the non-dominant hand taking charge and the other hand following. And then we can shake our hands out, and it's helpful to do that from the shoulders all the way down. And then we can interlace again in the way that would feel quite normal. And then turn the palms away, and again creating this wave-like movement, leading with the dominant hand. And then changing the interlace and leading with the non-dominant hand. And having another little shake out. Great. And then coming to mountain pose or basic attentive standing. Again, exploring a sense of effortlessness in that, ease in standing. So our feet below our hips. Sense of our tailbone hanging down. If there was still a tail attached, it would be hanging straight down. And our head going up towards the ceiling. So again, if your screen is kind of below eye level, look beyond the screen as much as you can. And then we'll bring our hands together in front of our lower belly. You can notice if it feels more natural to rest the right hand in the left or the left hand in the right. Maybe it feels similar. Choosing one of those, we'll swap it over later. And then on an in-breath, we're going to take our arms up and out to the side, maybe look up a little bit, and on the out-breath, coming back, and then resting one hand in the other. And breathing in, going up again, breathing out, resting one hand in the other. Little pause there at the end of the exhale, and then breathing in again. And then you can alternate which hand is below and which hand is on top. And maybe imagining your arms like the wide wings of an eagle or an albatross, some big bird flying free. And you might also like to slightly come up onto your toes. So encourage this feeling of lightness. And exploring that a little bit as well if we're getting a bit serious in our lives. Cultivating lightness in our embodiment can be very helpful. Imagining being able to fly. Spreading our wings. In some ways we might feel the whole situation is curtailing our freedom, which obviously is in some ways. And it might give us new freedoms in different ways. A lot of people who are quite naturally introverted are saying it's giving them permission to spend much more time alone, and they're appreciating that. And if you're furloughed from work, it might not feel that great, but it's obviously giving you more free time. So there's perhaps things that we can appreciate. And then when we next bring our arms down, we'll rest again one hand in the other. And taking our feet wider apart, so my feet are a bit wider than mat width. I'll just show you. I've got two mats there, but you can turn sideways as long as you're not going to slip. Taking your feet to something a little bit wider than the width of a yoga mat. And then again, starting here with our hands here, bending our knees, again letting the tail sort of hang straight down, the head up, and taking our arms out to the side, palms down, spreading out. And then taking your Right arm down, left arm up, straightening the legs, going into a gentle side bend. And coming back to this starting position, knee bend. And taking your left arm down, right arm up, becoming tall, straightening your knees and going to the sides. Wide-legged side bend sequence with support pose to strengthen the legs. Again, you can work with your breath here. You could inhale on kind of straightening up, exhale into the side bend, inhale coming back, exhale bending knees, inhale straightening up, exhale curving, inhale wide, exhale down. If it's too complicated, and just follow the movement. And then if there's one side that feels a little bit tighter or shorter on the side or on your shoulder, you can finish on that side. Otherwise, I think we started with the right arm up. You can finish on the left. And then we can take a wide-legged forward bend. So notice how your hips and back feels. You might want to turn your feet in or bring your legs in a little bit to feel stable and comfortable in hips and knees. And then going forwards, which could be a halfway forward bend, just being aware of any restrictions in terms of your spine, or you can go further down and you can bend your knees. You can have a little bit of a sway from side to side, letting your head go again. And then coming back up. When you're ready, stepping your feet a bit closer together, about hip width. Again, maybe slightly wider, see how you feel. We'll do just a loose twist to loosen up the upper body again. So you can bend your knees a little bit as you turn and let your arms be floppy. And slowing that down. Having one last little bit of a shake off. You can shake off your legs. That sense of creating a bit of space in the corners of the back in these major joints of the shoulders and the hips before the relaxation. And then for the relaxation, again choosing either a supported seated pose where you're very comfortable, maybe with your back against the back of a chair or the wall, unless you're super comfortable sitting in a yoga meditation pose, or lying down on your back, front or side. And it's quite nice to try different things as well, and as you definitely know, I have my favourite lying down position. And if you've got any aches or pains in your lower back, then it can help to keep your knees bent, or to place a bolster or a couple of big pillows under your knees if you're lying on your back. You can do a sofa relaxation, yoga at home. Take a minute to settle and to make sure you stay warm. A few things we've done in this session is finding ease in breathing, doing various practices that bring awareness to our breath, and particularly to the capacity to breathe in the lower parts of the lungs, which can be particularly affected by patterns of breathing that change due to stress or things like tight clothing or self-consciousness about our belly. We've done some posture work that helps with awareness of the breathing there, which was also strengthening for the upper body, in particular the weight bearing on our hands will be strengthening for our bones. And then the last sequence, strengthening for the legs and the thigh muscles, which is very helpful for our knees. And also that sense of embodying stability and structure. And we've done some core strength, which as well can give us a sense of certainty within ourselves when things around us and in the future may be very uncertain. The practice we've done today may really help us to get a sense of embodying certainty through the strength in our body, and particularly in our core, our belly, thighs and buttock muscles and back muscles. And then the benefit of the relaxation, the deep relaxation, is to soothe our nervous system. We usually begin by really allowing ourselves to settle onto the ground or onto our seat. Experiencing gravity maybe as a kind of warm, caring embrace. And the support of the ground or the floor as a caring support. We've been working with this a lot too during the crisis. The stability of the earth is there. And nature is there and is very soothing, and in the springtime can be particularly wonderful to observe. Noticing how Mother Earth is benefiting from the pandemic can also be very reassuring, a sense that Mother Earth knows what to do. And as you rest, you may choose to close your eyes. You may choose to have them gently open, maybe some of the time. Maybe you can see some pleasant sunlight in your room. Maybe you've got a high window where you can see the sky. Also being aware of the space of nature, some of which may be inside our homes and is outside our homes. The sky that shelters us, the sun that warms us, the earth that unconditionally supports us. air that we're breathing. The air coming in and out of your body. Again, relaxing your belly so that the in-breath is easy. The out-breath is a gentle letting go. Perhaps each out-breath can take you a little deeper into resting. And then can you find a part of your body that feels warm? Maybe your hands are warm, your belly, feet. Physical warmth. Noticing the sensation of warmth. Maybe there's an emotional sensation of warmth, like a contentment in the belly, or a warmth of the heart. And we can bring something to mind that we can be grateful for today. Maybe as simple as gratitude to yourself for making time to attend the yoga session, which hopefully has benefited you. Grateful for the sunshine, the fact you've got food, you've got shelter. And if we can sense that gratitude or appreciation in our body, it's sometimes a feeling of warmth. Might be a kind of warm friendliness in our eyes, even if our eyes are closed. A sense of gentle gladness in our belly. Maybe it's just a thought in this moment, thinking, I'm glad to have shelter. I'm glad it's springtime. I'm glad I've had a nice breakfast. Or I'm going to have a nice breakfast. Finding a sense of ease, comfort in our body and mind. Perhaps alongside discomfort. perhaps in the midst of anxiety or any other emotions, can we find something inside of us that's comforting, that's warm, that's at ease? If we can perhaps kind of lean into that, lean into the comfort or ease. By leaning into, I mean resting our awareness on the feeling, on the sensation. So it could be resting with awareness of the warmth of your hands. Resting with awareness of what gratitude feels like in your belly or your chest. Resting with awareness of how comfortable it is to give our weight to the ground. And slowly becoming aware again of the space around you. And if you're feeling a great desire to stay in a restful place, maybe napping, resting longer if you have time, please do turn off your device. Follow ease and pleasure if you can. And if you're needing or wanting to get up, again, you can do that in a way that follows ease or pleasure by moving through some stretches perhaps, or taking a few more breaths curled on your side, and then resuming your day when you're ready.